Bam! MC is in the house. What's up, folks? My name is Justin Garcia, also known as Master Chim, and welcome to the Warrior Stream. I'm here every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time, taking a topic, deep diving, having a good time while doing it. If you guys are not getting my email, go to masterchimletter.com. Sign up, it's free. I send one every morning. It's a good time. I talk about different topics. And I think at this point, if you guys have been following me for any length of time, you should already be on that list. So what else we got going on? Two on Tom. What's up, brother man? Good to see you. As you guys are jumping on, please feel free to say what's up. So we got two on Tom in the house. Good to see you, brother. Jamie, what's up, brother man? Good to see you. Big Cap, what up? Good to see you. All right. Aaron, what's up, darling? Good to see you. A lot of the usual suspects, which I like. Right now, I am streaming on my main YouTube page and a couple of Facebook pages. So you guys are scattered throughout, but I appreciate you guys making the trip. So got a pretty good topic planned for today. If you guys have been connected to my world as of late, you know that I have been about as obsessed about AI as it gets. And, you know, being that I have one-on-one coaching clients, I have a couple of different mastermind groups that I run. One of the things I've also noticed is an aversion to AI and to the technology. Now, I got to say, the nature of my relationship with the guys that I deal with tends to be one that I could be a little bit direct and we could talk a little bluntly, you know, when necessary. And so a lot of the guys who are, you know, sharing these stories about why they can't do something or they shouldn't do something or why something's not for them, it's fine. Most of the time I let them finish, but they're usually wrong, especially in cases like using AI. You know, a lot of the guys that I know that are outside of my coaching circles, because I do have a little bit of the nature of the alliance of my coaching circles is such that I do feel comfortable being a little bit more assertive with my opinion. I'm kind of being, you know, paid for it. But outside of that, I tend to let things rock depending on who it is. So if you're somebody who is an acquaintance who is espousing nothing but a disdain and rejection of what AI is and what it represents, there's a certain point where I'm going to go, yeah, cool, that sounds great. And I'm going to keep it moving. AI right now, I don't think it's any profound statement for me to say that it's going to change the world. I think that's pretty evident, you know, at this point. And if it isn't, you know, wake the fuck up. But beyond that, it's a tool that we have right now that could be used in the way it could be used right now that gives you access to things that without the tool you may not have access to. One of the things that I'm conveying all the time to the people that follow me and, you know, are hearing my talks about the AI, you know, a lot of my emails are about it. And we just did a sprint that finished last week. We got another sprint coming up in a couple of weeks from now that my email list will hear about. That's more AI based. But it's really a leadership tool. If you don't know how to convey, well, let's start one level back from that. If you don't know what you're trying to do, then you're going to spend every day trying to stay busy, try to stay stimulated. You know, at the end of the day, if you're tired, you feel like, you know, you did a hard day's work, whatever that meant, whether or not there was any momentum being built is an aside. But if you're somebody who knows what they have to do, then it's like, okay, how do I do it? If you have a task, a mission that transcends your individual capacity, well, then the next thing is I need to have some sort of a syndicate or a tribe that's connected to me so that we collectively could go and do it, either together as a group or from a leadership position, I'm going to lead my people to this outcome. And these different stages that I'm describing, at some point when you're in that leadership position, you have to understand where you're going. And then you have to be able to convey that to the people that you're charged with leading there, the people who have capabilities that allow you to achieve more than your individual capacity can achieve. I could use a pair of pliers, and if I have a pair of pliers, I could grab something and turn something that I might not be able to with my fingers. Having the pliers, there's a pair of pliers on my desk, came to my mind. So having pliers allows me to do things beyond the capacity of my individual grip and finger grip. All the time that you are using any tools or you are in a leadership position, you are moving beyond your capacity. AI is the tool that exists right now that has been able to move people beyond their capacity, I would say, more than any other tool in the history of mankind. Maybe an exception, and there's probably some qualifiers that would separate it a little bit, but maybe wealth. Maybe wealth before now has been the tool that, people could move beyond their capacity. You can afford to do whatever the fuck you want. Tendency is you're going to do whatever the fuck you want. AI represents probably the one right after that. If you're somebody who, and a lot of the guys that do coaching with me, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s in some cases, these are guys that are waking up every day. They got shit to do. They're trying to make the day as productive as possible. If they're connected to me, that means they're not just a regular 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old. They're the person who's actually investing in their capacity, growing, getting their mindset right, what have you. But if you're in that category of individual, AI is at this point mandatory. It's mandatory, number one, because it's inevitable. As soon as I deem something to be inevitable, I treat it like I treat the rain. I'm going out and I'm going to go for a hike, or me and my family are going to have a picnic, and then we find out it's raining. I don't think it's within my power to change it. I don't change my plans purely because it's there. I understand it's just a condition of my life. It's just a condition of the universe. It's just going to be a condition of my experience. So as soon as something is inevitable, and we qualify these things, differently between individuals, but as soon as we say something's inevitable, it should be treated with absolutely nothing but a sort of tactical-minded lens. Okay, how do we use it? How do we deal with it? What do I do considering it's going to be there? And AI is there. So point being, what you feel about AI, your aversion or attraction to AI, like, it's all irrelevant. AI is going to impact your life. If you don't use AI, you are not going to get the benefits of using AI. If you use it, you'll get the benefits of using AI. And I guess I could use that simple lens. Those things get muddy when you start going down, different levels of specificity. But for the most part, if you're not using AI, you are really just ignoring opportunity that's been closer to you than probably anything ever in your life. If there's any billionaires watching, then I guess you're the exception to this, right? You're doing all right, whether you know how to use a computer or not. Where, getting shit done is concerned, I should say, right? So I got a whole thing planned that I'm going to be covering, and I went and just generated a quick PowerPoint. So let's get that thing popping. Oh, we got a bunch of people here. Let me say what's up to people. What do we got? KD, what's up, brother, man? Monsters. I'm going to try that, KD. I'm going to try it. Monster and the fucking Icelandic yogurt. I'm trying it. I saw that. I was dying laughing. Daphne says, sorry to switch topic, but do you have any trades? I have a question about it. Yeah, I'm going to trade you for another comment. Stay the fuck on task. Jesus. He said, just arrive and so right on. Cap says, I feel that using AI is a very slippery slope for many different reasons. I believe one shouldn't be completely dependent on it. However, if used shrewdly, can be very valuable and revealing asset. Well, I would say that could be applied to a lot of things, right? So I think that, not being dependent on anything, we should have an understanding of what that threshold should be. Like I would love to say that, yeah, I'm Master Chim. I got my shit straight. I got my businesses. I don't rely. Yeah, okay. The lights go out. I'm annoyed. My car stops working. I'm annoyed. Um, I don't have any power for my computer. I'm fucking annoyed. There's plenty of things that I depend on to operate at the level of output that I currently do. Without those things, my output goes down significantly. But I don't think I'd be being honest if I said that, if I lost everything and this was the, post apocalyptic world, right? Fucking Thunder the Barbarian, Mad Max, everything would be fine. I'd just go, okay, I guess we're doing this now, I'm not so delusional as to think that, yeah, let me put it this way. I'd like to think that's the plan, meaning I'm not dependent on anything. I've seen people survive, go through great, significant levels of loss in their lives and still come out functional. So I would like to think that I'm no less a person than they are where those things are concerned. But I'm also, I would say, accurate or authentic enough to say, I'm training for it. We'll see what happens. But getting back to, being dependent on things, everybody's dependent on something. To what level depends on the individual, depends on the thing that we're talking about. There were times where I remember when I was younger, before I ever did bodybuilding, and I competed in bodybuilding in 1998. Prior to that, I used to drink Pepsi with all of my meals. And if I didn't have Pepsi, I'd be pissed off because I drank Pepsi with everything. Getting ready for a bodybuilding show, couldn't have the calories and the sugar in Pepsi, started drinking Diet Pepsi. After it, never drank Pepsi again. It tastes like syrup water to me. There's a point where we will retrain ourselves. If you guys have ever read my Fade Framework article, it describes the process in detail. We expose ourselves to something repetitively enough for a long enough duration, we will sort of adhere or meld our identity to its existence. So we give ourselves enough time and open mind. We don't sort of fight the process. We'll become acclimated to a hell of a whole lot. It's probably one of the reasons why humans have taken over the fucking planet, right? Because we're able to adapt beyond any other creature here. So, a little bit of a fucking tangent. I got a whole fucking slideshow planned here. I got to get to it at some point. D, what up? That's my brother. What's up, D? Aaron asks, always on topic, Aaron. Aaron, you're lucky. I love you and that you're on every one of my podcasts because I would not even humor this. Like, you know how hard it is for me to keep focus? So Aaron asked, but she's as loyal as it comes, her and her husband, Jamie. And so I'm going to answer this. She asked, can you explain the all go, no show saying again? I must have missed that somewhere, but you were wearing something like that. Or wearing something that said it last week too. Right on. So all go, no show is the theme of my last sprint. And it's a mindset. It's a philosophy that as men, we should be working to become more capable, more effective, more productive. And none of that power, energy, resource, etc., should be dedicated to the appearance of that level of capability or power, right? So too many men today are worried about how they look, worried about how they appear. They're worried about this sort of, I don't know if it's oxymoronic or paradoxical or hypocritical, whatever the word is, this reputation among strangers. I don't worry about my reputation among strangers. I worry about my reputation amongst my people, amongst the people I'm connected to. I worry about my branding to strangers, but only in the context of the mission of what my branding is designed to do. I do business with people. I sell things. I offer experiences and the coaching and the different sprints and all the different events that I do. So my branding is very much connected to that. But I'd be the first one to say that if I got $1 billion dropped in my account, first thing I'm doing is transferring it to Bitcoin. Right? The second thing I'm doing is shutting all my social media channels down. Like strangers will never hear from me again. Anybody that connected to me before that happens, I absolutely will take your call and respond to your email, but there would be no more public me. So all go no show is a sort of driving, belief system that I have that really squares away what all this effort's supposed to be for. Right. So I hope that makes sense. D1, what's up, brother man? Good to see you. Jamie says, I find AI to be highly useful, provided due diligence and everything from researching, soundboarding, editing, plus giving expression ideas and art music that one might not be able to have the level to do. So I would say that I agree with all that, but in addition to that, the levels of application, the use cases of what AI is going to be, I don't think a lot of people have conceived of yet. Like just how permeated AI is going to become in our everyday experiences. I think one of the things that really kept my mind open to this, maybe, because I don't think I had any training necessarily that preempted this, but I'm a Star Trek fan, right? I'm one of these Trekkie guys that's looking to, I still watch episodes of The Next Generation all the time. This idea of talking to computers, having computers do things, and holograms, speaking to them and interact, like I've been waiting, So it's like a lot of Star Trek people or sci-fi, maybe people in general. Like I've been waiting for this shit. So as it's sort of unveiling itself, or as it's becoming more and more of a thing, I'm just chomping at the bit to get to it. That being said, it's not only allowing me to do more, but the things that I'm doing are allowed to be more consistent, more professional, more impressive, more powerful, right? So I used the pliers analogy before, right? And I could do things with a power tool that I can't do with my hands. But if I don't know how to build anything, the fact that I have this power tool doesn't really mean much. If anything, because there's no context added, it's actually going to disincentivize the development of my individual abilities without the tool. So AI for a lot of people is going to do the same thing that smartphones did, just made everybody dumber. All right. So AI, if it's going to make, some people more productive, it's going to make a lot of other people capable of less productivity without it. All right. So I hope that makes sense. So let's get to this list, right? So the name of the show, obviously, I got my old camera here and I keep looking at it, but the new camera's there, so you'll excuse me, but my screen and everything is here, so I'm trying to make shit happen over here. Okay, so Why You Hate AI is the name of today's show, and the list I have is 10 reasons the battle was never about AI. 10 reasons the battle was never about AI. Let's put this up. Hopefully you guys could see this. I try to make these letters nice and blocky, and that's good. I think either it's good or it's at least good enough. So number 10 in the reasons the battle was never about AI. You confuse comfort with loyalty. This is a recurring theme in a lot of my emails, certainly some of my videos. When we're comfortable, things tend to get familiar. Comfort is not the same thing as conviction. It's not the same thing as being compelled to move to generate some sort of outcome. Sometimes the tools that you use at one stage of your life wind up building the cage that traps you from transcending the current stage of your life. What got you here isn't always the thing that gets you there. Well, one of the things that steps in the way of people realizing that oftentimes is comfort. They're really comfortable, but they'll tell you, I like doing this. This is I've always used this tool, and they'll even say, well, I'm loyal to this tool. And that just, it makes no fucking sense. Right? I understand why you're saying it, but the logic of what you're saying just is not there. You are comfortable. No, I just really prefer using this. I don't like using a typewriter. I'd rather hand write the book. Okay, I guess. But now it's about writing with your hand. It's not about creating a book. And that's the offset that some people don't realize, right? So one of the reasons, and obviously the list is dedicated to people, or from the perspective of I'm talking to somebody who says that they don't like AI, they hate AI. It's like, well, you're confusing comfort with loyalty. Let's move to number 9. You're calling it principle when it's actually pride. You'll have people that'll say, well, I don't need AI. For what I do, I don't need it. Or that's for people who don't know how to write. That's for people that don't know how to do this, that, or whatever, AI is doing nowadays. There's a point where, you have to ask yourself, are you trying to evolve? Or is this just the one rung on the ladder that you've fallen in love with? Because chances are, whatever you're proud of at this point was something that you hadn't internalized at some point earlier. Anything you're good at, you were not good at all the time. So when you have your principles, you're able to open doors, you're able to evolve, you're able to reach for that next rung in the ladder. But pride is the thing that locks that door. Pride's the thing that tells you this is the rung that we should be on. This is high enough. And then you'll start creating the stories to validate that. And those are more for existential reasons that people will start to do that. They don't want to feel like a loser. Nobody wants to think, yeah, I'm a fucking loser. I'm scared of evolving. I'm making stories to feel comfortable. I want to feel powerful, but I don't want to become more powerful. So I'll make sure that as my power decreases, I'll shrink my world to go along with it. So I always have this relative power, right? The tyrannical manager at a fast food place, right? Or the husband who scares the shit out of his wife and kids every day because that's the only place he gets to feel like a boss. This is a recurring thing, this idea of shrinking your world just so that you stay relatively powerful within it. Principles are actually the things that are going to help you evolve, right? Where you're talking about, if this is the mindset of rejecting AI in this case, it's all pride-based, right? It's all pride-based. And old wisdom tells us what pride will do to a man. Number 8, here's another thing. You have opinions, not results. You have opinions, not results. You can debate AI for an hour, but when I ask you what you actually did this week, you can't show me a damn thing. Oh, that guy, he made that whole music album with AI. Oh, yeah? Yeah. It's like, I'm a real musician. He used that. So where's your fucking album? Oh, well, I don't, I'm working on it. Or it could be an album. It could be a project at work. It could be an email. It could be a book. It could be a picture, whatever the fuck it is. Oh, he used AI. That's all right. Where's yours? You don't have one, so shut the fuck up. At some point, the world cares about what your output is. It cares about what value you're offering for the exchange because you want other people's value. Well, your part of that equation is producing value to begin with. So people will have this opinion about AI, and AI's, that's all bullshit. It's all this, or they're using this to program you. It's the nanobots. They're trying to find a way. I'm making shit up here. But whatever it is, right? Whatever the story is, what people don't realize is at some point they didn't have that story. So at some point they were exposed to something that installed that story in them. So the people who are arguing about mind control and brainwashing and becoming more addictive to this, that, when you actually audit their lives and take inventory of all the things that they have already succumbed to, you'll see it's just more of the same. So it's really not having anything to do, again, with AI. It has to do with them just not producing. Maybe it's jealousy. Maybe it's just ignorance. Maybe it's the guy who says, well, maybe says it to himself, directly. Maybe he is suffering from this, but hasn't even articulated it. But he's thinking, I'm too old to learn this. I'm not good at computers, right? That's how people who are bad at technology, that's how they say, I'm not good at computers, as if computers is like the name of a game, right? So there's a point where if we anchor ourselves to results, we'll get over the whole AI aversion. Because to me, I got a wife, I got 4 kids, I got a bunch of people that rely on me. I don't have a time to sit here and say, well, I don't think that this is going to be worth it, or on principle, I'm not going to do that thing. That really isn't against any of your principles. It's against your habits, right? It exploits your insecurities. I'm all about a motherfucker standing on principle, but don't stand on your weaknesses trying to hide them and then say it's a principle. You're full of shit and we know it. Let's get to number 7. You're waiting for permission. So this is one that I ran into a couple times, where you're waiting for somebody to say AI is good, AI is okay. If you need permission, I give you permission. You should be learning how to use AI. You should be learning how to use, maybe it's ChatGPT to start with. That's like the gateway drug, right? I use predominantly Claude Code for 6 to 8 hours a day. 6 to 8 hours a day. I got my treadmill here. I got my kettlebell here. I have my sauna right outside my office. My family is 20 steps away in my house. Like everything that I need to sort of connect with during the day is within arm's reach, but the rest of the time is spent working on Claude Code. And the majority of that, not majority, let me not be full of shit. A good portion of that time is spent standing and moving just so I could still get that movement down that I need to do every day. So if you need permission for somebody that you respect and you happen to respect me, like, get on it. Get on it. And it's not a matter of, oh, what course should I take? What book should I read? Fuck it, that was like almost like a comedy statement. There are no books. I've said this before, maybe last week on one of the, anyway, why is a 4-year-old able to use an iPad? Oh, because the way they design iPads, there's something to that. But all of those are downstream of the fact that somebody gave the iPad to the 4-year-old and just let him play with it. He'll figure it out. It's an iterative process. There is no course you're going to take that's going to take you from nothing to everything. Certainly there are courses and there are videos that you can go through that'll give you little pieces of the pie. But ultimately, you have to get comfortable enough to just go there and immerse yourself with the experience. In the sprint recently that I just finished last week, I had a good group of guys. We went 10 days working on productivity and structure so that we're consistent every day. One of the things I told them when they're trying to do something, like this would be an example, they're trying to install a new skill, a new habit, tell themselves they're going to put 1 brick session towards that a day, right? Which means 1 time block towards this one thing. So I'm going to work on AI for a half an hour. Well, what am I supposed to do during a half hour? I don't know. Fucking work on AI. Google it. How to work on it. Like it almost doesn't even matter, because the thing that is going to give you value is that half an hour every day. Because 10 days from now, you're going to have much more of a grip on what you're doing than you were in the beginning. But sometimes there's no information you're going to get in the beginning that's going to just sort of disconnect you or get you to just pass that whole intro phase, right? That internalization phase. You need to just immerse yourself in it and start playing with it. Use it for however you want. Ask it to help you. That's the great thing about where AI is right now. It wasn't like this a year ago, 2 years ago. Definitely not. But now, like, something goes wrong, you could say, how come that went wrong? And most of these interfaces with these LLMs will give you some feedback, right? So you're waiting for permission. Number 6, you'd rather be right than be effective. And oh man, this is one of them. Some people love being the fucking I told you so guy. They think there's something to that. They think it's like a powerful position to hold, but you're just a fucking spectator, right? You guys have heard the poem, The Man in the Arena. Go read it if you haven't. Your predictions, your opinions, your criticisms, none of that fucking matters. If you get on AI right now and you start using it and you look like a fucking retard for 6 months, once you're past that phase, you are going to be so far beyond the guys that for 6 months that were just calling you a retard. You just have to be able to work through that. If you're one of these guys that, I'm not going to try AI because whatever the story is, the real reason is you just don't want to take a loss, or you don't want to appear to be connected to something you're not good at in the eyes of the people around you, because you've managed to create this completely fraudulent facade whereby they think that you're super capable and that you don't have any deficiencies. You're good at everything. Some people like to be seen as that guy. That guy doesn't fucking exist. So it's a stupid role to play, certainly a limited one. So you want to be effective, you want to learn new things, you got to, I'm not somebody that really likes the word humility a lot, but there is a certain humility. And I would say it's really I don't even want to use it even in passing. It's more of a authenticity. It's more of a honesty, a self-honesty. That's what humility is. It's not trying to present yourself as something more than you are, but being okay with the fact that you are what you are. Right? Let's get to number 5. You protect your identity more than you are protecting your future. When you're the guy that says, I'm not a computer guy, that's not a fact describing your identity. It's describing a position that you're currently holding. And you just need to be able to distinguish between those two things. Saying I'm not good with technology is a declaration. It's not an assessment. You're not looking and auditing all the things that you're capable of and saying, yes, I don't have the ability to do this thing. Me, I'll give you an example of something that is a fact and not a position. I, my entire life, could honestly say I can't dunk a basketball. Right? Ain't going to happen. I played a lot of basketball growing up. Can't fucking dunk the basketball. Luckily, you don't need to be able to dunk the basketball. But I can't do that. Why? There are just physical constraints, right, to being able to do that. But when somebody says I'm not a computer guy, like, no, that's not the same thing. I'm not into technology. We'll fucking get into it. I don't know what to tell you. Just get into it. If you lose your job, you're going to get into another job. If you get evicted from your house, you're going to get into another house. If you put on a whole bunch of weight, you're going to get into a bigger pair of pants. Like, you're going to be getting into new shit all the time when you're fucking rejecting, getting more powerful and growing and evolving. So you might as well do it with some intent behind it. Don't be the guy that's trying to hold on to now. Now's already gone. Be the guy that's climbing the ladder. You don't need to know what's at the top of the ladder. You just know that nothing and nobody's going to stop you from climbing. Just a different position to have. Let's move on. Number 4, you mistake speed for recklessness. Now, here's the thing. Right now, the speed at which, and I forget the phrase that describes it, but there's a certain number that represents the time it takes for computer processing speed to double. I can't remember. But it represents, or it's a metric that's anchored to this idea that technology moves faster than we're used to things moving. It evolves faster than we're used to things in nature evolving. And sometimes that speed, it gives us the excuse to sort of determine or accuse something of being wrong, or see, they can't make up their mind about what they're doing. First they're saying do this, now they're saying do that. It's like all of that's insecurity. All of that's, existential, like, fragility, the identity fragility, that you're just trying to say the thing that makes you not look bad for feeling so uncomfortable. You're just going to rationalize, why your way is the right way. See, I told you I told you they don't know what they want. They'll change it in 2-3 months. I remember I had a guy that used to train under me, a fucking retard, who we went to a business event, and he went begrudgingly. I pretty much forced him to go. And he's like, I'm not going to go there. All they're going to tell you is to raise your prices. All they're going to tell you is to raise your prices. And I'm like, nope, we got to go. We got to go. We got to go. Well, sure as shit, the first talk, the guy talks about raising the prices. And he went, see, and I couldn't help him see past the limitation of his insecurity. Because, yeah, they were talking about raising prices. They happen to be talking about a whole shit ton of other stuff that has helped me make more money than I ever thought I was going to be able to make when I was starting out in my 20s. So there's just a point where if you just want to be the guy that's the naysayer to everything, you could be that guy. That job's always hiring, right? I would just obviously suggest that you be a little more strong, a little more powerful. Number 3, you fear replacement because you lack position. So here's another thing. As soon as, what's one of the things I hear? Hold on, monster. AI art's not real art. Okay. I've trained my whole life to be an artist. AI is bullshit. Shit. We know it. Well, here's the thing. I remember years ago, and Two on Tom was there. We were talking to a brilliant researcher from the Mayo Clinic. We were on a contract working with a military group, and it was like a lunch break. We always have the best conversations, right? This particular conversation, this researcher was adamant about the fact that an artificial intelligence, and this is like 10 years ago, right? An artificial intelligence would never be able to pass the Turing test. In other words, would never be able to convince a human that it's a human. And his whole thing was a computer can never have volition. It can never have this sort of this spark of creativity and uniqueness in its personality. And because that could not happen, and he was the scientist, right? He was the researcher. Brilliant dude, by the way. And my reaction, my position, and it wasn't as much of a pushback as it was hey, maybe I don't think you're considering all the things to be considered. What I told him was, I think you're tracking the wrong thing here. You're tracking whether or not the AI will be able to actually reach a human's level of creative, volition or identity, whatever it is. I said, what you need to be tracking is people's ability to track whether or not something's human. So it's not, can that thing be human? It's, can the people determine if it's human? There are already AI programs that could fool people on the internet, can fool people on phone calls. Eventually, there will be androids or physical looking robots that will fool people into thinking they're real. To think that that's not going to happen, I would ask, well, what's the physical constraint that's preventing that from happening? I'm not saying it's going to happen next fucking Tuesday. But to me, I think at this point, we could pretty much say it's inevitable. Because as technology increases at the rate it is, our ability to discern what is artificial and what is, natural, to just draw that dichotomy, like our ability to tell is not going to improve also. So saying all that as a background or a foundation for the artist, that's not real art. That's not this. There's a certain point where arguing that AI art isn't real art is like the person arguing that pop music isn't real music. So then you could say, well, pop music is for commercial pop music listeners. And it just is music that's made by a formula to make people buy it. And the musician in that case could say, yeah, but that's not real music. But I'd have to point out to the musician or the artist, in this case, the example we're using, the only reason you're mad about it is because you want their money too. Because if somebody tells me, yeah, I'm an artist, whether it's like drawing art, painting art, physical art, I don't know what the fucking category is. Clearly, I'm only a martial artist. I break shit. Or you're a musician. If they're saying that's not real art or that's not real music, I go, yeah, okay. Yeah, but people shouldn't listen to it. That's something else now. That's something else. Master artists will find a way to make people appreciate their master level art. Because all of it is valuable because of the perception of value. It is not some universal intrinsic value, it's perception. When one song is better than another song, there is a subjective nature to the comparison that we have to accept the other side of the position. When people say, no, it's chocolate ice cream better than vanilla ice cream, like, we can't say, no, you're wrong, because the nature of it is subjective. There's a point where people's appreciation of art and music is going to be subjective, which means saying that people should appreciate this type of art instead of that type of art is just as tyrannical as saying there should be one flavor of ice cream, which I am certainly not on board with, unless it's vanilla Swiss almond. Then fuck everybody else. All right. Let's keep it going. Number 2, you're repeating your father's mistake, right? Oh, man. So I don't mean literally your father, although literally your father could qualify for this. But what am I talking about? When we look at the generation that came before us, think about all the things that we use now in everyday life that generation rejected. Maybe it's the internet. Maybe it's email. Maybe it's the fucking calculator. Can't use a calculator. Can you imagine people not using calculators now? That generation we could look at and look at all the things that they rejected, and we could heed the lesson to be had by observing just how futile their positions were. You know, I shared with you guys the phrase that my mother used to use with me all the time. Strong and wrong. When I was a kid, I was a stubborn little motherfucker. Strong and wrong, she would say. Completely wrong and completely unwilling to admit it. We got a lot of people in that last generation, strong and wrong. Computers are fucking bullshit. It's for fucking city people, or like, I don't know what the fucking designation would be, but you know, rejecting these things that when we look at life now, it's like, yeah, Dad, you were wrong. My dad was on board with that stuff. He passed away before fucking, because my dad right now would be teaching AI too if he was still around. But those people that rejected all the things that are now just ubiquitous in the everyday experience, they fell behind when they took that position. They had to find different ways to still feel good about themselves. A lot of times, you know, referencing something I'd said earlier in the talk, you know, they those are the people that tended to just shrink the size of their lives. I only really hang around these people. I only really talk about these things. I only really go to these places because I have status and security there. You know, it's like a fish. I can only go from this puddle to that puddle to that puddle. No, that's a pond. You know, the fish there are too big. I'm a puddle jumper, right? These small little puddle jumping motherfuckers, where they always have to stay in the small environment because they can't expose themselves to the ignorance that they have once they get into a bigger environment. When obviously that ignorance is the one thing that's going to pressure them to evolve and grow and become more. Right? I don't ever want to be the guy who's figured everything out. Obviously, the impossibility that it is aside, I want to be the guy that's looked at or is from the first person perspective that is never going to stop trying to figure it out. I want the endurance in my curiosity to keep me driven until I drop. I don't want to be the guy that just made a life and this is it. Now I'm gonna sit here and live in this forever. Like maybe it's just a difference of choice and preferences, etc. Like not everybody's supposed to win, right? All right, we're moving. Let's get to oh man, you guys got a bunch of comments. Let me take this down for a second. Oh shit, high tech. All right. Cap writes, I admit I was like Del Spooner from iRobot in the beginning about AI. I was extremely against it, especially when it comes to creative occupations that require an individual's imagination and creativity. After all, I'm a writer who relies on himself for his literary work. However, I've since softened my stance as it relates to AI as I've come to realize it as a tool to help kickstart the creative process. So I used this example the other day, and Kat, you're a black guy from the Bronx. You'll hopefully get this reference, but I was talking to the guys, and I was talking to a group of like, just like non-city white guys. So I don't know if the analogy fell or landed the way I wanted it to. But I was talking about when I was younger, there was a song that was really popular called Secret Garden. And it was produced by Quincy Jones, and it had Albie Shore, El DeBarge, James Ingram, and Barry White. I think those are the four singers on it. R&B. And I remember that song was like the shit when I was in school. I happened to be going to school in the Bronx at the time, so it was a friendly crowd for the R&B music that was. And I remember when they said it was by Quincy Jones. And for the life of me, I kept thinking that I was hearing versions of it that didn't have Quincy Jones's part. I didn't realize that Quincy Jones was the producer, and because he put it together, he's the one that the songs are credited to. It took me a long time to realize that. It took me a long time to realize that, directors are given credit for movies that they don't act in, and they don't even have to pay for them. They just have to direct them. Or the producer doesn't have to direct or act, or there's all these different roles in something happening. And I think when it comes to AI, people need to understand there's more roles than just being the technician. And I think as we move forward into higher levels of capability, higher levels of capacity for individuals, their ability to go from the technician to the director, to the leader, to the producer is going to be rewarded more favorably. If we take the music business in general and think about like all the stories we hear over the years of all these incredible artists getting taken advantage of by some record executive, didn't own his own music, etc. There will come a point where, we realize, and I think they're all pieces of shit for doing that, don't get me wrong. But there'll come a point where we'll realize, the actual power is more in those roles that are a little bit higher on the food chain. The problem is if you spent your whole life being a technician, you're going to live and die by the technician's argument, So I hope that makes sense. Tom writes, AI is a powerful tool to be used by people who use tools. There are hordes of people who don't use tools. They don't create, fix, or repair anything. These people don't build anything. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And that's the thing, just like any tool, it's really a question of capacity, of capability. Like what can you, the world loves outputs, not intentions. What outputs are you capable of? And if the outputs reach one level and the person who uses some sort of tools, his output is up here, then why would you expect anybody to accept what you want or what you're putting out instead of the guy who's putting out more than you are, right? That's exactly right. Tuan Tom, of course. Now, I will say, Tuan Tom, I fed that out there because I knew you would know what that was, and that is the processing speed doubling at any certain amount of time. But right on. I'm assuming, I think that's what it is, but I'm absolutely certain that you would know it. Oh, and here goes Aaron Martin, right? Here goes Aaron putting the whole fucking definition there, right on. Moore's Law, originally predicting a doubling every year. Gordon Moore revised his forecast to roughly every 2 years in 1975, which is largely held true for transistor density. 18-month rule, often 18 months is cited for a doubling in speed of performance, which is accurate during the peak of PC advancement, whereas 24 months is the standard for transistor count, right? So, and that's what it is. It's these metrics that give us a pace of progress in these particular applications, that it would be beneficial to just understand that these things are so consistent in their pace of progress that we should expect that to continue in the future. It's not a matter of will androids ever exist that can fool us. It's when. You know, when you look at Star Trek Next Generation, my favorite, version of Star Trek, there's the android Data, who still looks like somebody who has fucking like rigor mortis or something. Like he's got that weird skin tone and he's got these weird eyes, and like this helmet looking hairdo and stuff. Like by that time, I'm pretty sure androids will look more human than humans. Tuan Tom says he's a smart guy, but still wrong. I'm assuming you're talking about the conversation we had with the Mayo Clinic researcher. I'm going to keep his name out of it, but solid dude, great dude, super fucking smart, but wrong. Right. So here's another thing that I wasn't going to bring in, but since Tuan Tom brought it in, his strong religious beliefs keep him from admitting AI can seem alive. Tuan Tom writes, I think there's something to be said for the feeling that new technology can make you weak somewhere else, like relying on GPS means you can't read a map now. Right on. And we could go back even further and say not having a map, or having a map makes you not be able to sort of find out where you're at on your own. Jamie brings up a very relevant point. Use of tools is definitive of humanity, right? That is who we are. 100%. Great point, Jamie. Appreciate that. All right. Let me get back to, where were we? We were on number 2. Let's go to the number 1 reason you hating AI has nothing to do with AI. You had this problem before AI showed up. So holy fuck, man. The guys that I coach, and not just in my like mastermind groups, my one-on-one coaching, but like 20 years of running a martial arts school, they show up with so much work that needs to be done. But almost every single one of them, the work that I'm referring to, is just martial arts. They think it's just that thing. I just got to learn how to figure this fucking jiu-jitsu, MMA shit out, and then I'm good. And they don't realize that what they're doing is entering a forge where every impurity of who they are is going to be risen to the top and excised from their identity because of the pressure that training puts them through. If you think of like everything that we went over in this whole list, all these things existed before AI did, right? The repeating your father's mistake, not having a real position and therefore, fearing replacement, the guy who wants to be right instead of actually being effective. Like all these things have nothing to do with AI, but all these things make up the lenses that people are using to reject it. If you were to just remove, the word AI from the conversation, it would still hold true over those people that are still suffering from these, I would say, self-induced problems. Ultimately, if you're looking at it, it's not a technology issue. It's not somebody's inability to process technology, to deal with technology. It's a pressure issue. You can't take the pressure. you would have to expose yourself to in order to invest yourself in or expose yourself to the iterative process that getting good at this one thing requires. It's always a pressure issue. It's like, no, I'm not going to use AI. I'm not good at AI because I'm not good at computers, so I'm not going to try it. It's like, no, you're not doing any of this because you're a fucking pussy. Because you're too fucking scared to be bad at something in order to be good at it. It's like, how do you create a great book? You write a lot of bad books. How do you get really good at a sport? You spend years being really bad at the sport. Like, it's not that this is the purpose. It's that is the process. And it's because people judge themselves on the outcome criteria. It's like I played or let's say somebody wrestles, right? Wrestles in school. I wrestled in school. Let's say that I kept losing matches. It would be easy to say I'm not getting any better. But what I would be suggesting is that the only criteria to measure progress would be whether I won or lost. But I could absolutely becoming significantly better from match to match had I had a more specific criteria that I was following. But because the threshold is win or loss, I completely ignore the progress that I've made, which means I actually don't even realize the progress I've made, which means, and this is what happens to a lot of people who quit, their progress criteria is too large. So they still think they're not gaining any progress, and they wind up quitting because they never actually realized the progress that they made. For some people, it's not just an unawareness or an ignorance of this. It's just they're really trying to impress the people outside. This is where the all go, no show philosophy comes from. It's like, I don't give a fuck what people think. I will be bad at something right in full view of their eyes while I'm getting better at it. White Boy Pat, my black belt, great friend. Most of you guys know White Boy Pat. When he first started jiu-jitsu, holy fuck, he was terrible. He was terrible. The only people that were less athletic than White Boy Pat when he started usually had fucking lupus or like polio or something. There was something that they have a vaccine for, right? So he was not, just athletically setting the world ablaze. But one thing about Pat, that robot motherfucker, is he doesn't stop. So I got to see from afar, as the instructor, how he progressed through the hierarchy of the school. And when he first started, he was White Boy Pat. Why was he White Boy Pat? Because there weren't a lot of white people in the school, right? So we usually put, white attached to the name. So White Boy Pat, everybody was beating the shit out of him. Like anybody else, he didn't know jiu-jitsu. He was training, didn't know jiu-jitsu. But he kept showing up. He kept training. Tough as fucking nails. Wouldn't quit. Couldn't do a damn thing, but kept going. Then before you know it, the hierarchy of the school, in the beginning, everybody could beat the shit out of him. But then the white belts couldn't beat the shit out of him anymore. The blue belts needed to. And then eventually, he just worked his way through to where even if you were getting the better of him, you weren't beating the shit out of him. Nobody was beating the shit out of him. And a lot of those people that were talking shit, because usually the best guys don't talk a lot of shit. But a lot of the guys that were talking shit, suddenly you start seeing they were ducking Pat. They didn't want to roll with Pat. Why? Because they spent 6 months making fun of him and beating the shit out of him. And now he can put them in a fucking crucible, and they don't want to be there. Because he didn't talk. He just kept training. All go, no show. That's the thought process behind it. So when it comes to learning anything, that's the philosophy that I advocate for. Stop fucking worrying about what you look like. Worry about what you can do. Worry about the time you put in. Worry about the structure of your day. Man, I'm getting fired up. What else you guys got? Give me something to talk about. Oh, shit, we're already at an hour. All right, don't give me something to talk about because we're going to end it here. Time flies. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Today was good. You guys had some great comments. Appreciate you guys. Jamie, great one. Two on Tom, obviously, as always. Aaron, Cap, appreciate you. The rest of you guys, I'll be here next week. Look in the description, whether you're watching on YouTube or one of the Facebook pages. Get my email. Make sure you get my email in the morning. It's fucking free. Like, just get the fucking email. There's a quote of the day that I put in every email. I spend a lot of time in the quote of the day. It has nothing to do with the email a lot of times. I just treat that differently. So even if the nature of the email is something that you're not necessarily interested in, the quote of the day is always going to be something you could meditate on. Or as we would say in the Bronx, let it marinate a little bit. But man, I had a good time today. Hope you guys did too. I'll be here next week. Thank you for showing up again. And as always, brothers and sisters, pressure to power.